Hi, welcome back to Point and Shoot. I'm your host, Susan Hagstrom, and here today with me is Susanne Malloy, Hingham-based photographer who specializes in quite a variety of things. We're going to talk about that in a little, but for now, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I want to hear a little bit about how you first got interested in photography. How did that come about?
Sure. Photography was always a hobby of mine. I think I picked up a camera in a middle school, after school program, and I was hooked. And we still have those pictures, I think, of me photographing, making my siblings model.
Yeah.
And so, but it wasn't until my son was born that I really got much more into photography. And then I had two others come along, and so I had three cute little subjects to follow and chase around with my camera.
Good.
And so that really sort of sparked my interest.
That's a common theme that we hear, and that's a great thing for people to know, that it's a hobby that you can turn into a career later in life. So, that's a good thing to know. And so then from there, did you have any additional formal training, or were you sort of self-taught, or how'd that work out?
Sure. I mean, primarily informal. But I was just started upgrading my camera, taking courses at the New England School of Photography, just to increase my own skills, because I was having so much fun photographing my children. And I think that then it was kind of organic. A friend of my husband's, who is a photographer, said, I think she has a really good eye for this. About that same time, I was sort of looking at something I could do flexibility-wise, being home with three children. I wasn't going to necessarily go back to what I was doing before, so it just kind of grew from there. I started taking some courses, upgrading my equipment, and then, but before I considered actually making it a business, I felt like I had to do, more training, certainly more practicing, more courses, and just the whole digital piece of it, the Photoshop and all of that.
Exactly. So all the editing, which of course
which was a big learning curve. I love it, but that was certainly a big learning curve. Yeah.
Good. And so how many years now has it been
since? It's been about 4 years.
4 years since you had your business?
Yeah. So it definitely started small and has been growing to this point. So.
And I know on your website it says that you specialize in a few areas. I think it was families, children, maternity. How do those interplay with each other?
Sure. I mean, a lot of my clients will be sometimes repeat clients, so I might get them as a maternity client when they're expecting a baby, and then I'll take maybe newborn portraits, and then, 1 year, 2 year. It's fun to see certainly repeat clients come back, because I get a chance to see families grow and how they're changing, and so that's a lot of fun.
So with newborns and children and then families, what do you find? I would imagine that there's some challenges with those subjects, and then some really rewarding parts too. You touched on it a little bit, but let's start with the challenges.
The challenges? I mean, with children, I think the #1 thing is they're unpredictable.
Exactly.
So
which can be a great thing too.
I mean, that's definitely part of what I love about my job. It is never, one photo shoot is never the same as the next, and the children make it fun. Like, I consider some of my photo shoots, I feel like they're a workout too. I'm chasing a 2-year-old around the beach, and part of what I wanted to do too when I take portraits for family, I never want to feel like a child or a family has to sort of sit there and pose and say cheese, and you don't really get those natural expressions.
Exactly.
So, I love when a family can we'll go to a location. I'm mostly an on-location photographer, and they can kind of run around at the beach, they can play, we might sit for a minute, take a few photos, but I never really want particularly young children to feel like they have to be, on their best behavior, or they have to be performing, because I find the portraits the ones I'm drawn to, and I think also the families are drawn to, are the ones that really reflect, who their children are, if they're sort of running around, laughing, and enjoying themselves.
So you don't have a studio, you do your things on location, which it sounds like is something that lends itself toward having people in their environment, some kind of environmental portrait where people seem relaxed and not stiff, and that.
Yeah, a lot of my, like for newborns, we might be in somebody's home, or younger children, or certainly this winter with most
Oh
of the
my
snow.
gosh,
We're doing
yeah.
a lot of indoor portraits with a nice window light reflecting off all that snow.
Exactly.
But primarily once the weather gets nicer, like the spring, the summer, the fall,
that would be your busy
the majority of my photo shoots are outdoors, and we have so many great locations on the South Shore, whether it's the beaches or
so true.
We've
talked about that so many times.
The farms, the
natural
fields.
setting here is just beautiful.
It's so fun. I feel like every year I discover some new place. It's like my favorite. So
on the show we love to talk about gear. All photographers are really into their gear. So tell us a little bit about your camera bodies and then sort of your go-to lenses and anything else.
I shoot Nikon D700s, what I primarily shoot with, and then since mostly portraits, I'll use the 24 to 70 2.8 or 70 to 200 2.8.
So that's a fast lens.
Yeah, lets in a lot of light. I love to do a lot of shallow depth of field type photos, so I like a fast lens that can let in a lot of light.
Probably see some of that in some examples in a little bit, but that's good. I want people to learn about that.
And then I love my 50 millimeter 1.4 is one of my favorites. I feel like it's one of the least expensive lenses.
Those prime
but
lenses.
I love the prime. I don't mind moving myself sort of in and out, and so those would probably be my my primary lenses. I do have a flash speed light, but primarily I like to use natural light.
And I suppose I was going to say the great thing about maybe something else challenging about those on-location sites is that you're not controlling all of the elements like you would in a studio.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you're outside, you're not really too worried. You don't have to concentrate on, you can really just concentrate on your subjects and not have to worry about setting up your lights or whatever. And of course, we know that natural lighting, looks great. And then there's probably some things you can do with shading and filters that, you could
I mean,
control a little bit.
I try to look for certainly beach portraits. I'll only schedule the hour or so before sunset or early in the morning when you get that sort of soft light, or I'll look for natural reflectors like the sand and the water, or definitely if you have to shoot like at noon, then I'm definitely looking to avoid the harsh sun if I need to.
Okay. So one of the things that I suppose as your business evolved was you got into developing these classes for different segments. So you're teaching photography to groups of people. Now, how did that come about, and how has that, what has that developed into?
Sure. Well, I started doing these small kind of in-home classes for adults because a lot of people were asking me questions about how to use their camera, what kind of camera to buy, or I just noticed that a lot of people I knew had these great digital SLRs that they never took off auto. So it was so I developed a little workshop primarily it was for moms of kids that wanted to take better pictures of their kids, sort of like a 2-hour workshop to kind of give them the basics of getting their cameras off.
And you had a big interest in that?
Yeah, so that's been typically someone will host one in their home, and so the host will invite like 5 friends over, and so it's a good opportunity to socialize and learn a little bit more about their camera and practice. And then from there, I think maybe those classes, somebody at the community center had inquired if I'd be interested in teaching some classes for middle school age
and that's a great age when kids are really starting to learn about the world around them, and of course kids are into technology. They don't probably need to be taught about that.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we take a look at some of Susanne's work. We're going to take a closer look at some of these subjects that we've been talking about. We're going to look at some of the technical aspects that she's employed with these, and get a little more information about if you're interested in taking one of her classes, how to sign up. So we're going to take a quick break and tune back in a second. Hey, welcome back to Point and Shoot, our show about basic photography. We're here today talking to Hingham-based photographer and family newborn child specialist, Susanne Malloy. So welcome back.
Thank you.
We've learned a little bit about how she got started in photography and how her business has evolved, and now we're going to take a closer look at some of her images, and we're going to talk about how those were made. Okay, so where was this taken?
This is Cohasset, down by the sailing center. There's a little bridge that kind of connects the rowing area to the sailing center. But it's great. It's a nice path, and this little guy, it was a good place for him to run.
So here's a great example of the lighting. It looks like it's backlit maybe a little or coming from the side, but I love how you can really see the light is obviously in the, like, picking up the highlights of his hair. And is that?
Yeah, I have to say, I do love to backlight. I kind of like getting that natural glow on the hair, and you know, he's not necessarily going to be squinting if he isn't looking into the sun too.
And was he actually running towards you?
He's running, yeah. So this is a fast shutter speed.
That is so sharp. That's really great.
He was running. As a matter of fact, he wouldn't sit still. So the only way we were going to capture, you know, great images of him was to, you know, increase the shutter and just go with it. So,
okay, so that's the key on that, increase the shutter speed. All right, so here we have a family. Wow, so this is all the elephants with the dog too.
Yeah, I do. I get a lot of dogs.
That can sometimes be challenging.
I know, and actually I think there was another dog walking by in the background that caught his interest, but it was actually good because we got him, you know, looking straight ahead as he was looking at the other. Yeah,
now what time of day? I know you talked a little bit earlier recommending that the best times of day, of course, are early in the morning or later in the afternoon.
Yeah, primarily this is probably the hour or two before sunset.
Okay.
When the sun gets a little lower in the sky.
Looks like it might have even been cloudy because there's not really any shadows, which is
a little cloudy that day, and there's also a little bit of an overhang on that building that shades a little.
And so you position them so that their faces are all sort of on the same plane. Is that a good?
Yeah, I mean I have them all on the same plane. I like to get families, you know, close together, all their faces close together. You know, a lot of my clients are looking for a picture for their holiday card, and so they kind of want everybody all together, including the dog. So yeah, we got them all here in that one.
This is, you know, where was this taken?
This is Turkey Hill, or up the top.
Yeah.
And I love this image because these kids were just so much fun.
Yeah.
And the little one in the middle just has, you know, so much emotion. And even though the older brother's not looking, I feel like that was a really natural image and captured, you know, what was going on there that day. They were kind of swinging their sister around. And
so again, I think that's a great example of, you know, something that's not posed, where you're saying, you know, a studio shot where people are posed and everyone's looking at you, and it can be kind of stiff. Here, it doesn't have to be, everyone doesn't have to be looking the same way, and I like the connection with them holding hands, so they're all connected like that, but it can be just more natural.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun. That's one of my favorites. They're just sweet.
So now this is totally different.
Totally different. This is indoors. So this was shoot inside using window light.
Oh wow!
And this is somebody's you know, their bedroom with the white comforter reflecting light back on her face, and very simple. Although, you know, not in this image, but there were 4 children in this family, and so there were other ones of them jumping on the bed too, so kind of a mix of posed and
nice soft background there.
Yes, yeah.
Do you do a lot of black and white?
I do a mixture. So when I give a client a gallery, I do a color and black and white version of each. You know, sometimes I definitely feel like I'm drawn to a certain image being black and white versus color, but
portraits, they say, especially of children, do often make a good black and white. So you can kind of see that here. So here's one. I mean, these 2 guys
are so much fun.
So where is this? Hingham Harbor, or
this is Situate Maritime Park.
Okay.
Which has some really pretty spots because there's boats in the harbor, but then there's also beach grass next door, and this young lady is a dancer, and so this was kind of different from my normal family shoots, but she wanted a series of pictures doing dance poses. So
it's a little precarious.
So
I wouldn't try that myself.
No, not me either.
I think I would be overboard.
No, she's very talented, and we had a lot of fun capturing different images.
Great. That looks, is that the same backdrop?
That's the same, yeah, okay. This is the same spot. This is also in Situate. And I love the chevron door, particularly with kids or a big group of kids when you're trying to get them all together. I like having to find a spot where they can all kind of sit and get together easily.
Yeah.
And so something like that, a barn door or something they can lean against is a nice option for that.
Good.
This is a portrait taken up at Turkey Hill, sort of probably the hour or so before sunset in September.
Yeah, you can see the sun back there on the grass.
Yeah, I just love the light.
And I like the light too, coming from the
little bit
back
from
to the side,
back side with the hair light.
But yet not in her face, so.
Yeah, just beautiful. I mean, her eyes just, stunning with the light. So.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of personality.
Yeah, this little cutie was part of a family session, but this was the beach in September, I think, or October. The beach grass is kind of turning colors. And so even though she's, posing and looking at the camera, it's sort of in between, playing on the beach and making a little sandcastle there. And so it's fun, and I think you can get more relaxed expressions from kids if they're just in their, environment having fun. And yeah, she was a lot of fun. This is a newborn photo. So sweet. Probably, newborns they'll usually photograph within the first 2 weeks of birth, so that they'll still kind of do some of those curled up
so do you
poses.
Kind of mold the baby in this one, or did they just do this?
No, a little bit of molding. So yeah, newborn sessions can take up to 2 hours because you're working with a baby and you really have to work on their schedule.
And you kind of want them to be asleep?
And so to get something like this, you do want them to be asleep, and we'll use a little beanbag and a background and even a space heater to keep it all like warm and cozy, and get the little guy to fall asleep.
And it's very simple, so you don't have anything competing with. Basically, you just want that baby's face, right?
Yeah, just that face, their little eyes, their little hands,
very cute.
Yeah, just the sweetest. This image is World's End, and I love this image. It's one of my favorites. She was just taking a break, and she wasn't even necessarily posing. We had gotten a lot of fun smiley shots, and we were like, well, why don't you just think of something serious? And she kind of did this.
I like it's off-center.
Yeah, off-center. It was a stormy night. There was a storm rolling in, so the light was kind of like behind clouds, but filtered. And
I like she doesn't really have a huge smile, so it's definitely a hint of a smile. Yeah. So that's something you want to think about too, is maybe
it doesn't always have to be
asking your subject to smile without the teeth. There's another one. Yeah,
this is a family portrait. And so, I do a lot of these, and which are great because you can get, mom and dad and all the kids in it together. And I think that's what, a lot of people are looking for, because it's not something they can do themselves.
That's great. I like their outfits there, too.
Yeah.
That was great. Well, that was great to see some of your work. It's very, very beautiful. Thanks for sharing it with us. We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to see Susanne in action, hopefully at one of your classes. So stay tuned and come back, and we're going to take a closer look and get some more information about those classes and what to do if you would like to take a class from Susanne. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Point and Shoot. I'm Susan Hagstrom. We've been talking today to Susanne Malloy, Hingham photographer, who runs a class for middle schoolers right here at the Hingham Community Center. We're downtown in Hingham Square at the intersection of South and Central Street. The Community Center is right here behind me. They have all kinds of classes. We'll give you their website later. You can, if you're interested in finding out more information about how to register for this photography class for your child, we'll give you the website to the Hingham Community Center. But right now, we're going to go in and take a look at Susanne in action and talk to some of her students and see how they like the class. So let's go in. Hey, so here we are inside the community center, getting ready for Suzanne's class. Suzanne's back. We're back, joined by Susanne Malloy, photographer here in Hingham, and we're going to be joined in a few minutes by some students. Now this is the end of their class, so they've spent the last 7 or 8 weeks learning about their cameras, learning about composition. I'm going to let Suzanne explain to us a little more things about the itinerary and what they gain in knowledge about the class. But so tell us a little bit throughout the program. It's 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And so what's it structured like, and what kinds of things do you take them through as they go through the class?
Sure. This is our middle school photography class. So the students in the class are 5th through 8th graders who have an interest in photography. We have all different types of cameras in the classes. So some students have a point and shoot camera, some have a full digital SLR camera with multiple lenses, but they all sort of share a love of photography. The class is structured where we have different assignments every week, mostly around composition and creative photo challenges. So we'll have scavenger hunts where they're asked to look for 10 different things. I showed you, we'll look at some examples later, right, where they looked for letters in their names and made name collages. So sort of every week we have a different challenge or photo assignment that they work on, and then the next week they come back and share them all with each other.
That's great. I think that's a good point, because whether you're a child or adult, it really doesn't matter as much about what kind of camera you have as it matters your love of photography. I mean, that's really the most important thing, the key ingredient, right? Because we all know that I've seen images taken with a point and shoot that are amazing.
Yeah.
And
I students who forget their camera and are using their iPhone, and just amazing creative
exactly.
pictures.
So I like that it's not so much about that, but really about the techniques that you would employ, no matter what kind of camera you have, and really, like you're saying, nurturing that creative juice that's going with photography.
Yeah. And I think they, as students, encourage each other, so it's really fun to see them sort of learn from each other.
Yeah, and
inspire each other.
It sounds like this class is just another outlet for a child to really develop their creativity. So just another opportunity. So that's great. And if you had to pick just a couple things that you hope they really learn by the end of the class, what would those be?
Right. Well, I hope that they learn, we talk a lot about composition and really thinking about how you want to take the photo before you take it. So we've said sometimes, like, you might spend 10 to 15 minutes thinking about the type of photo you want to take before you actually hit the shutter button. So sort of for them, learning to compose a photo and learning to take their camera with them. I think that's a big piece. Exactly. A lot of them said that was a great part of this class, that they were kind of forced to carry their camera, because you can't take a picture if you don't have your camera. And
that's the same with whether you're a pro or an amateur adult. I know so many times every photographer is driving down the street. I forget where I was yesterday, above a big thing that was ice dam, and I thought, oh, that's so neat, and I didn't have my camera with me. So that's a great lesson to learn. Okay, well, I'm excited to meet the students. We're going to talk with a couple students, and we are also going to see some of their work a little bit later. So now we'll just wait for the students to show up. So here we are, joined by our students for today. A very good-looking class. I don't think that was part of the class, but just so happens they're all great-looking young ladies, all interested in photography. So we've got Eliza, who is in 6th grade, and do you go to the Hingham Middle School? Okay. And Jenna, also in 6th grade, also a Hingham Middle Schooler, and Ava, who is in 5th grade at Plymouth River School. So I'm gonna hand the mic over to you guys, and you guys can just take turns. I would just like each of you to tell me how you liked the class. I'm hoping that you really liked it, and you can tell me about that. And then just give me a couple things that you learned about photography while taking this class. So Eliza, we're gonna start out with you.
I like this class because it learned how to take a better photo. Like before, I didn't really know how to take a great photo, but I learned how. I learned how to make the photo interesting and use like contrasts and colors in the photo.
Wow, great.
I also really liked this class. I learned how to take better photos because I used to take bad ones, and we learned about the rule of thirds and like leading lines and stuff like that.
Great.
I like this class because before I took it, I didn't really know how to use my camera. And I learned like the rule of thirds and patterns and things like that.
Great. So it sounds like this is, even though it's an introductory class, sounds like you guys really got into it. I know it went over quite a few weeks, so you probably got to cover a lot of information. And that's great, and I'm glad you liked it. And I just want to ask you now, do you think you're going to be taking a lot of pictures in the future, like this summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything in particular that you want to practice on? Any kind of like travel or vacation or just goofing around in your backyard?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And how about you guys? Any further? Do you think you're going to take any additional classes? Do you think you're going to continue with your interest in photography?
Well, I might just take pictures places like skiing and going to the yacht club because there could be really cool pictures there.
Good thinking. You know, Hingham is a great place to take pictures. A lot of outside beauty. So that's good thinking. In the summertime, you'll have some opportunity to take more pictures. How about you, Liza?
Yeah, and on vacations too. Like in April, I'm going to Spain, so I should take cool pictures there.
Wow. If you need a helper, you know, I'm available. So, I mean, maybe just mention that to your parents. Well, thank you, ladies. I'm really excited as a photographer myself to see young kids involved in photography. It's great. I know you guys are really creative. We're going to take a look at some of your photos, and it's great just to hear that you think you've improved. I mean, that gives you a great feeling to know that you've learned something and mastered a new task. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the class in action, and then later on, we'll give you some more information about how to sign up for this class, and we'll take a look at some of their work. So hang on.
Wrapping something around Hingham using knowledge that you've acquired so far in class. And what were some of the things we were thinking about including in our photographs when we photographed our final assignment?
Filling the frame?
Filling the frame, yeah. What were some of the other things we were keeping in mind when we were taking our picture?
Rule of thirds.
Rule of thirds.
Bird time.
What else? We love the rule of thirds in this class, huh? Some pictures. Did you look at the scene first? Check out the light. Maybe think about where you were going to take the photo from, what angle. Right?
And we went over there.
Yeah. When we went on a photo walk in one of our classes a few weeks ago, right down there.
So I hope you guys learned a lot today about this photography class taught by Susanne Malloy. We had a great time listening to her and viewing her images and then taking a closer look at her class. If you want more information, you can check out, this class is called Focus on Your Creative Side. It's for students from 5th to 8th grade, boys or girls. It met one day a week for about 8 to 10 weeks. It's an hour long. This class was just ending, but there will be additional classes later in the year, so check out the community center's website. We learned all that. Even those young kids had great images. We saw their stuff. But remember, you only need to know two things to be a better photographer, and that's point and shoot.